2021 was a rough year for trucking. COVID carried over from 2020 and affected us badly in a number of ways. Our supply chains were disrupted. The container ports workers fell sick and didn't come in. They weren't staffed properly. The containers backed up in the ports and the ships backed up in the harbors. And the truck drivers, to haul the containers out of the ports, they also fell sick or didn't want to come in for fear of getting sick. And it disrupted the whole supply chain, starting right at the container ports. Not only just in the ports, warehousing and trucking was disrupted across the nation as truck drivers and warehouse workers fell sick or were afraid of getting sick and didn't want to come into work. And who could blame the truck drivers, because the truck stops were closed, the restaurants were closed, the rest areas were closed, and they felt, and rightfully so, that they should be home with their families. And because the truck drivers stayed home, for the first time there actually was a driver shortage, and it drove carriers insane because they had to up the wages to bring drivers back into the fold. And slowly, the trickle began of drivers coming back into the industry. And then Biden mandated his vaccines, and the trickle slowed and thinned. The ATA panicked and jumped in because they had the most to lose, and went to court and froze Biden's mandate. But now the ATA claimed that they were 80,000 drivers short, rather than the 60,000 they'd been short before the pandemic hit. Part of Biden's infrastructure bill did introduce a modified version of Drive Safe, which was something the ATA had been chasing since 2017, but it was modified. It was a pilot program, but it did allow certain select young drivers, 18 to 20 years old, to enter the interstate market to help ease the driver shortage. Here in Canada in recent weeks, we had massive flooding, and it knocked out our Coquihalla Highway, which is our major route for trucking east-west across the country, and that further disrupted our supply chain. Our supply chains do seem to be slowly correcting themselves, yet they have issues that will still follow us and stay with us and plague us for the next few years at least. Now, something that we should have seen in 2021 that we didn't, and we were promised we'd see, were electric trucks on the highway, but that's fallen flat in its face. Tesla wasn't able to solve its short duration battery problem, and Nikola was rocked by the fact that their CEO was charged with fraud, and Trevor Milton is in court. So that was the end of looking for electric trucks this year in 2021. A dynasty that has been with trucking for years, this year announced that 2021 would be its final year. First, Jimmy Hoffa Sr., starting in 1932, and then followed by his son, James Hoffa Jr., announced his retirement this year in 2021. That is the end of an era for Hoffas involved in the Teamsters and the trucking industry. 2021 became the year that something truck drivers had suspected for a long time finally came to light, as in the state of Louisiana, multiple people, 40 people, were arrested and charged with deliberately creating truck accidents to defraud trucking insurance companies. That case is ongoing in court. It was something we knew was going on for years, but finally the feds have been able to prove it. As of this date in 2021, the AB5 legislation remains hung up with no solution. The case is frozen until the Supreme Court decides as to whether or not it will hear the case. And no matter how they decide, when they do hear the case, it will rock the trucking industry. On the lighter side in 2021, the large car community has been rocked by Peterbilt's decision to phase out full gauge dash packages in favor of screen dashes. I personally am just distraught. Finally, 2021 brought a light at the end of the pandemic tunnel with the opening up of the live in-person truck shows finally once again. First there was Walcott in July, followed shortly by Shell Rotella, and then the others. And I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw these truck shows coming back in again. It was a sign, a positive sign that things were finally returning to normal. It's fair to say that 2021 was a tumultuous year for trucking. I, for one, am glad to put it in the rearview mirrors. Lots of things changed in 2021. Lots of things will change in 2022. One of the most important things is where the money is. Our next video will focus on where the money is in trucking in 2022. Make sure you're subscribed. Stay safe, keep the rubber side down, dig in for 2022, and we'll see you on the backhaul.